What's going on, football fans? I am the Football Grump, and I am here to talk about my favorite wide receivers in this 2023 NFL Draft. If you don't know who I am or what these videos are, it's probably because it's my first one, and you have no idea who I am, and that's fine. But I know you didn't click this video because of me, you clicked it because of the wide receivers. So I'm going to jump right into it. If you're interested and you like this video at the very end, I go through all that stuff there. In any case, my favorite wide receiver, my highest rated wide receiver in the 2023 NFL Draft is none other than Boston College Zay Flowers. The first thing that I think most people notice about him is his size, of course, right? I mean, that is a huge concern at the NFL level. 5'9", 182, that is short and pretty light. Although it's not that light for his size, yeah. I'm not that concerned about it. And one of the first things that I look for is physicality with guys like that. And he's physical. He will get into it with blocks. And I have a couple of clips here down on the screen there, the picture of him doing some blocks there. He gets pretty good leverage. He is going to drive his feet. He's going to do what he can. He is a willing blocker. Giants fans, who are probably the only people watching this, but if you're not, you may not be familiar. Sterling Shepard comes to mind. The way that he's not the biggest guy in the world, but certainly a willing and effective blocker. Definitely tries. And one of the clips I have in here, he doesn't really do anything except get in the way. But it's more the fact that he chased the play down. He comes from the other side of the field, goes all the way to the middle of the field at full speed to get in the way of somebody and spring, the run. I think it's the running back in the play to spring the runner into the open field. Granted, he doesn't really lay into anybody or anything like that, but that's not really the point. It's the fact that he is that much of a willing blocker at a position in which that is not a huge priority, especially for a lot of guys coming out of college. I am not that worried about his height. Honestly, I'm not worried about his physicality, and I'm not that worried about his height. I think this is kind of where the NFL is going, because if you are 5'9", that certainly sucks, but if you can get open, it almost doesn't matter, and he certainly gets open. His quickness, his route running is off the charts. I think his stop and start ability is next level, but he creates separation at cut points throughout the routes too. It's not just, he doesn't necessarily just win at the release point, or like right off the jump, or doesn't just blow past people with speed. He knows how to run his routes, how to temper his speed along the route, and when he has to break down and chop and then cut one way or another, there's no wasted steps there. With the ball in his hands though, certainly fast, and that 40 time says it. 4.42 speed. More than that, I think he's dangerous in the open field. He has a really good eye for holes. He gets north and south really quickly. He has a lot of spin moves and jukes and cuts. He's also not afraid to be physical with his stiff arms. He'll run through arm tackles. Not everybody does that coming out of college. So he's a threat in the open field in addition to, at the release point. I would say what makes him even better, and this is one of the reasons why he is my favorite, my highest rated, is that he's also really good at the catch point. So he's good at the release, he's good running routes, he's good in the open field, he's good at blocking despite his size, and he's good at the catch point. It's insane. So, I mean, he looks like a good hands receiver. He's good at keeping his feet on the ground and staying in stride when he catches the ball, which is a pet peeve of mine. A lot of guys jump for no reason, and that is delay. That's all delay that's allowing defenders to get closer to you and make that tackle. He doesn't do that if he doesn't have to, and he didn't have the best quarterback at Boston College either. In fact, he had a pretty bad one, in my opinion. But for his length at 5'9", he utilizes every bit of it. He's actually very good at high pointing the ball. He's got great footwork along the sideline. I think Zay Flowers is a serious, well-rounded wide receiver that's going to be dangerous at the NFL level. I think he's going to go very early in the first round. My favorite wide receiver in this class. Quentin Johnston, wide receiver at TCU, 6'3", 208 pounds, and an unofficial pro day 40 time of 4.49 seconds. That's fast. That's also, is that true? I think it's true. Yeah, 4.49. Yes, correct. 6'3", 208 is the first thing that jumps out, and it's probably the main reason why he's a lot of people's number one wide receiver off the board. He's my second highest rated. But I mean, that size can't be ignored. I think the NFL is deprioritizing size, but that doesn't mean that having the Calvin Johnson type guy isn't a massive advantage that every NFL team is salivating over, because that's absolutely what it is. He is not Calvin Johnson, but he is very, very good. I mean, 6'3", 208 pounds. He moves really, really well for it. I mean, that's one of the things. It's not just how tall you are. It's being tall, fast, and quick. And I think that he's pretty quick. If you watch him, he has a good amount of shimmy to all of his stuff. I don't know that he's fully honed that ability. I think he can continue to work at it, hash it out, and make it even better than it is. But for 208 pounds at 6'3", I think he moves really well. He's really crisp in and out of his cuts. I think he has very little wasted footwork. I think for his size, he's super fleet-footed. It looks awkward how large and quick he is. And I do think that his deep speed is above average. 4.49, 4.5. That's fast, man. 4.5, I know elite speed now is like 4.2, but 4.5 is still blazing fast. He's very, very fast. And you can see all of his shimmy, all of his speed, all of his quickness. He's dangerous in the open field, too. It's not just along the routes. I think he has a good eye for open spaces and holes. I think he's got a decent variety of moves in space, whether it's like a spin move or just kind of chopping his feet, juke stuff. He loves to throw a pretty violent stiff arm, which is awesome. He'll run through guys, which is good to see at his size. I really like what he looks like with the ball in his hands in the open field, and that's why TCU schemed a lot of stuff to get him the ball as easily as possible. But aside from them scheming to give him the ball, I think he does a really good job of... He might do the best job of anybody in this class at working back to the ball and being quarterback friendly. Max Duggan is a good quarterback by... NCAA standards, but he's not the greatest, and Q helped him out a lot. You can see tons of clips of him working his way back to the ball, some 4 or 5 yards at times. He can catch off the top of his shoes. He does have that length. Now, here's what I will say, and this is where the negatives start to fall, and this is why he's not my highest rated receiver in this class. For 6'3", I don't think he does the greatest job of high pointing or staying on the ground and catching in stride as he could. There's tons of examples you can find of him leaping up in the ball and leaping up for the ball and catching it in his chest, not even with his hands, and sometimes as low as his belly. For 6'3", he doesn't utilize his length as well as I think he should. And I'm not the first person to point that out. So the other thing is, I think his release points are a little questionable. He didn't face a whole lot of press coverage. The respect a 4.5 speed gets at the NCAA level, especially in their conference that TCU plays in, is not going to be the same respect that NFL corners are giving, NFL defenses are giving. Defensive coordinators are not going to let him just run free. They're going to hit him at the line of scrimmage and stuff like that, and he's going to have to be able to take it. There's just not a whole lot of examples of him being overly physical along the route and winning. That's a huge thing that I think he's going to have to get better at. He's certainly quick enough to win at the release point, but he's going to have to learn to be more physical, utilize his side. He may have to gain some weight, which may take away from his quickness and speed. So there's some legitimate concern there. But I mean, even then, he's a super talented wide receiver with plenty of speed, plenty of quickness, and great size. And like I said, working back to the ball in ways that most players coming out of college don't do. I would say even most NFL wide receivers don't do. And that is usually the difference between a very good and a elite wide receiver. So Quentin Johnson, TCU University, my second rated wide receiver in the 2023 class. The third receiver that I have listed as a day one prospect, and probably the one connected to Giants the most, is Jordan Addison, USC/Pitt. 5'11", 173, ran a 4.49, same as Quentin Johnson, except at the combine, so it's official. We're going to talk about that because size, he's on the light side. 170 pounds is pretty light for 5'11", and he looks pretty thin and wiry. It's a bit of a concern, but he doesn't have a lengthy injury history as far as I'm aware. So I'm willing to let that one go. But the other part of that equation of like his measurable traits over there is the speed. A lot of people have speed concerns with him. I put him in the same category as Quentin Johnson. I think 4.49 is considered fast. I still think that's fast. I know it's not elite speed. I know people get worried when you have a wide receiver that you're discussing in the first round and we're talking about potentially sluggish speed. I guess shades of like Laquan Treadwell or something like that, who was a complete bust at the NFL level. But I don't really have those concerns. I acknowledge that he's not the most explosive. He's not a burner by any means. But 4.49 to me, that's fast. I think you can separate against a lot of NFL corners right there. And I don't think that he's relegated to the slot either. I think he can do some outside stuff, but he'll probably get a lot of his work in the slot. So he'll probably get more off release, more free releases than not. I think where he shines is footwork, and it's going to be at the release. It's a long routes. I think he does a really good job on wide receiver screens. I think he just does a great job of separating. A lot of the clips in the video box there against Utah, he's matched up against Clark Phillips III, who a lot of people really, really like in this draft, and he, forces a DPI. He beats him on the end. The other clips I think are against Stanford. He's matched up against Kyu Blu Kelly, who I really, really like, and he beats him deep. I think that he does a really good job of separating along the route. He knows exactly how to use his speed. He has the fleet-footedness, really, really sharp cuts, and good timing on his moves throughout the route to manipulate DBs as well. I think he knows exactly when to throttle up his speed. I think especially on the deep, I guess it's like a deep post route against Kyu Blu Kelly in the Stanford game. I think also he's really good at the catch point. I think he's solid hands receiver. I think he's excellent on deep routes, which sometimes can be tricky with over-the-shoulder stuff and things of that nature. I think also he does a really good job of sitting down in zones, just understanding zone concepts and where to sit, the soft spots where he can just kind of sit down and be open. I don't want to say that he's a home run threat in the open field. He doesn't have the home run speed, for starters. He's not a huge dance guy. He's got some sharp cuts, and he'll like head fake his way into them and stuff like that. But I don't think the top speed he has is like enough to elude, and I don't think he has the same. He doesn't utilize the same amount of moves that like someone like Quentin Johnson or Zay Flowers does in the open field. But he is really, really good at breaking tackles. I can say that. Willing, strong enough to fight through them, doesn't give up on plays. So, yeah, while he's not a home run threat in the open field, I do think that he is a threat in the open field. He's certainly not one of the guys I want. He doesn't go down immediately upon catching the ball, which a lot of guys do too. I really like Jordan Addison. I think that the bottom half of the first round is where he's going to go. It's where I grade him. And speaking for my New York Giants, would not hate him as an addition to the roster. But I do think that a lot of teams, I think most teams in the NFL would love to have somebody like Jordan Addison on their team. He was productive more than anything. Being productive is something that can't be ignored when coming out of the draft. I have him listed as first-round talent, and I am excited to see where he goes. He is my third highest rated wide receiver in the 2023 class. So the last wide receiver that I think could get into the first round here is Jackson Smith-Njigba from Ohio State. He does not come without some level of risk, and there's a reason why I say he could slip into the first round. I have him graded as first-round talent, but the difference between late first round, early second round really boils down to like team need at a certain position, fear that a certain guy won't last, or just upside of another player. You know what I mean? Those are just like the things that can separate a late first round pick and going right away in the second round or something like that. But I want to say that Jackson Smith-Njigba reminds me a little bit of the Giants' Steve Smith, the other Steve Smith, as many referred to him as. But I think even that is kind of like doing him a little bit of justice, right? So the first thing you'll probably notice is that there's no clips on this one. I didn't bother to. Why? Because there's not very many from 2022. The injury is, you can't talk about Jackson Smith-Njigba and not talk about injury concerns. I don't know. I think you can get past it. It's just, for me, depending on the team that's drafting, a first round pick, you're not going to screw up. I'm sorry. So you have to love the guy and take a swing like this. So it's important to note. I'm not going to ignore the injuries, but I also don't think that it's the end all be all for him. But this dude is a smooth route runner. It's like watching butter slide. I don't know, warm butter slide off of toast or something like that. The way he moves up and down the field. I really, really like watching him play. It's a lot of fun. He has a really good feel for how to utilize what he's got to gain separation, right? So he has quickness, exceptional quickness. He's really good hard cut start and stop ability. He has burst, right? So when I say that quickness, like he can kind of like tempo his speed into different branches of the route. He knows how to lean into and away from corners to kind of manipulate them, use his hands to his advantage. He does a lot of things really well to gain separation. But one thing that he doesn't do really well is run fast. I mean, it needs to be talked about that he is quicker than he is fast. And it's also important that he went to the combine and didn't run the 40. I mean, I'm not a big combine guy, and I'm probably going to say that a million times, but there are certain things that I do want to see if you do show up, and it depends on your position. This is one of them, man. I think it's important for wide receivers to run a 40, but he didn't. So the questions about whether or not he's fast or just quick, they're going to remain until he proves otherwise. Certainly game speed wise, it shows up that he is not that fast as far as wide receiver standards go. He doesn't have the home run speed in the open field. Defenders catch up to him, even defenders on, lesser Big Ten opponents, I really do think he lacks the NFL top gear, and that's a concern that's going to happen at the next level. I think it's also worth it to mention Ohio State's offense. He gets a lot of free releases. Now, I'm a little bit less concerned about this because he's big. He's got good size. 6'1", 196 I'm pretty happy about. He's also quick. Like I said, he's got really good feet, good footwork, whatever. But he did face a ton of free releases at Ohio State, and that all worked to his advantage. Where he does shine, though, is body control and his hands at the catch point, really. I don't know that he's ever going to be like a strong contested catch guy, but along the sideline, I mean, he won me over with that back of the end zone catch against Nebraska. That's a fantastic amount of body control. I think sometimes that he can catch with his body, but I don't think that's I don't think he's a bad hands receiver. I think sometimes it's just, he is making a kind of insane catch and is using his body to help. I like him. I like I said, like the route running prowess that he has, that he possesses, is something that a lot of guys coming out of school don't have. So it's certainly valued. He gains separation using what he does have. So while he doesn't necessarily have the speed, and maybe there's questions about him at the release point, I do think that he'll, at the NFL level, gain separation. I just don't know that he'll gain it as well as other people. For me, I'm going to put him as a late first-round talent. For Giants fans that are listening to this, which I assume at this point most of you are, I'm not really sold on him at 25. I could certainly see him going day 2. And I guess I can just end this now. That was the last guy I could see going in the first round, or that I have graded in the first round. So I am the Football Grump. I didn't want to put this at the beginning of the video because I know you guys want to just watch prospects, but I am mostly active on Twitter. I've been active on Twitter for a very long time. I have an Instagram. I'm trying to use it going forward. But I mainly run a Giants podcast called Just Giants. The draft has always just been my favorite thing. I will always do this because I just enjoy doing it. I like watching players and kind of ascertaining their strengths and weaknesses, and guessing at their upside and that sort of thing. So this is something I plan on doing going forward for years to come, whatever. I do go to the Senior Bowl. I've been to the Senior Bowl twice now. I was brought along, thankfully, by the Talkin' Giants guys. Bobby and Justin invited me along, and I hope I can keep going to that. That's a lot of fun. It's certainly a great place to get familiar with these players. But what this was supposed to be, I had aspirations of doing like all of these players, like every player that could get picked in the first 4 rounds or something insane like that. And that was clearly eyes bigger than my stomach for this. A little bit of that was like real life stuff. So whatever. What this is going to be going forward is just my favorite players, the ones I feel like talking about. They may be good, they may be bad, or I don't want to say bad. None of these players are bad. They're all potentially drafted in the NFL is not bad. I shouldn't say that, but maybe overhyped or misevaluated. It might be something I do where I just disagree with the common evaluation on a specific player and want to get my thoughts out there. Whatever I feel like, actually. So that's what this is going to be. The clips, this is never going to be teach tape. I'm never going to be talking about a thing and running through a video. I'm not the best X's and O's guy, whatever, so I'm more of a traits person. I look for traits because I think a lot of the X's and O's stuff doesn't transfer to the NFL. I think also the modern NFL looks at traits and sees how they can fit it into what they already have running. I think the NFL's changed a little bit in the way they look at draft prospects with that. So I'm more of a traits guy anyway. So those clips are never going to be that. These clips are mostly going to be highlights, probably not going to be assorted in a particular fashion. They are going to be all about, clips of things that I'm talking about, I hope. I do watch all 22 film. I'm subscribed to several. They all ask not to have their stuff put on YouTube, though. So these clips are pulled from, there's a YouTube account called Do a Barrel Roll. I have his permission to use his clips, and therefore that's what I'm doing. He has tons of stuff. He has every year he does tons of stuff where he puts up matchups where it's the broadcast film and it's cut up to just be the one side of the ball per team. So if it's Michigan versus Michigan State, he'll have a video that's just the Michigan offense and then a video that's just the Michigan State offense. So it's cool that he does that, and he has a Patreon. So I'll be using his clips, and while I don't have a Patreon, Jake does. So the link for Jake's stuff is in the description below, and if you like my stuff, then you can support me by supporting him. I'll be doing a bunch of these videos this draft season. I'll probably continue doing stuff on this channel regarding college players. Maybe probably take a break in the summer, but I'll try and do this throughout the college season. And I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching.